Hey everybody, it's Tim and Steve at Phantom History House. How are you doing tonight, Steve?
I am good. We have been crazy busy, and we're going to tell you all about it here in a second.
We are, but thank you so much for being here for our tonight's episode of Phantom History House Calls. All right, so we have a wonderful, wonderful conversation tonight. The undead Undertaker is with us. We're going to talk to a real life mortician who does this work, plus all kinds of other cool things associated with it.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk about how we met the undead Undertaker, which was by pure chance about a year ago.
Involves two hearses.
Two hearses, the Hocus Pocus sisters. I mean, it was a wild.
It really was really cool. But you will love talking to her. We're going to get to ask her sort of all those questions that I have some questions.
I have lots of questions too. And on top of being a mortician, there's a craft side to her that's really cool. So think oddities and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But before we get to that, we're excited to talk about how crazy busy we've been here at Phantom History House.
We just went through the first 2.5 week stretch where we had at least one guest every single night. This is what we've been hoping for, but now that it's here, we're exhausted. We have to learn this new way of doing all this.
Well, what's so great is we meet people from so many different backgrounds and from all over the country, and I enjoy talking to them, and we're kind of interacting with them the whole time, and they go out and do their thing. We do our day jobs. They come back and we talk some more, which is fantastic.
Yeah, recently we had a family from South Dakota, Iowa,
New Jersey.
It's been really, really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody everywhere.
And they're all very different, but lovely and fun to talk to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And coming up for Tampa Bay Pride, which is, what's the date? This is coming a week from Saturday, the 23rd,
I think it's the 23rd, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be out and about. We're going to be at the Speakeasy Lounge right down there in Ybor. You're going to be able to come say hello to us. Phantom History Live is going to be out in Ybor for Tampa Pride.
Yeah, we're working on the details. The Speakeasy has been kind enough to welcome us in, and we'll get those details out as well. So during Tampa Pride in Ybor City, we're going to be down in that area. So check out all of our socials, and we will keep you up to date.
Yeah, make sure you come by and say hello. There's going to be all kinds of special things going on. So that's the next big live thing we're going to be doing. But tonight we're talking to a mortician.
Yes.
And I'm fascinated to talk. Well, let's bring her in.
Yeah, let's bring on the undead Undertaker.
Undead Undertaker. She's so cool. You're gonna love her. Hey there, undead and I'm too excited. We just said how busy we've been. Undead Undertaker. How are you?
I'm good. I've been busy too.
You have been.
Yes. I'm sure you have. Well, what does that mean for when a mortician says that they've been busy? Is it business is good? I mean, how do you?
Well, it's been we've just had a lot going on. Where I work, we do embalming for several different funeral homes. So there's never any shortage of work.
Well, I think my first question for you is how does one become interested in this line of work? I mean, obviously what you do is incredibly important. Everybody at one point in their life is going to encounter somebody who does what you do. When did you say, this is my career path, this is what I want to be?
Well, for a while, I've always had an interest in dead things. I did taxidermy for a long time, and I just wasn't really making much of a living at that. So I decided to go back to college, and I discovered they had a mortuary program. So I went with that, and that's where it all led.
Well, and to be in that, well, let me ask this too. Do you deal with families in addition to the
embalming part?
Yeah. Or you more?
I'm assuming there's people behind the scenes and
so I'm licensed for both, but in my position, I'm just an embalmer. There's been times when I've met with families during my internship, and then some with my own family when we had a death in our own family. But for the most part, I just stay in the back, and I do the embalming work. I do everything from the makeup, dressing, casketing, all that sort of thing.
Okay, so I have a lot of questions, but I want to back up to little undead Undertaker running around loving dead things. Like you did you collect taxidermy? Like, do you remember early on, like just thinking, oh, it's cool, I found a stuffed whatever, or?
Yeah, I would always, even as a kid, I would always pick up bones. I would look at roadkill. I was just fascinated by that sort of thing.
Now, you were fascinated because this thing used to be alive and suddenly it's not, or
Yeah, it just, I don't really know. I just found it really interesting, and just bones fascinated me, and anatomy and everything along those lines.
well,
I didn't get it muted. I didn't get it.
bless you.
I am so sorry, everybody. I tried to get the mute button. Are you okay? Under.
Okay, Undead Undertaker.
Okay, I'm
All right.
going to get better at it.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. So, did you share this interest with friends? And like, how did your friends react to the fact that you were really interested in roadkill and taxidermied animals and things?
I didn't have a lot of friends. I had a few, and they thought it was a little weird, but they were kind of okay with it. Then, of course, as I got older, I started doing the oddities shows and stuff, and I've met more people through there that are interested in that sort of thing. So there's definitely a community of people who have that interest.
Yeah, you find your community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we just saw you recently at the World Oddities Expo here in Tampa, where we kind of reconnected with you.
A lot of cool stuff.
A lot of cool stuff, and your booth was fantastic. I mean,
Thank
you had everything from interesting Barbie doll type toys to traditional taxidermy. So you had a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I've expanded my collections from just what I started out with, just taxidermy, and then I moved on to more like weird antiques and funerary items and creepy dolls, just a little bit of anything odd and unusual. It's just, I find it all, anything with a story or anything that just kind of gives you the creeps to look at. I just love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I think that's why I like the paranormal world so much. It's like an adrenaline rush when you get a little bit spooked or made to feel a little uncomfortable. But I would think for somebody like you, it probably takes a lot to get you to that point, right?
It depends. Like, sometimes I'll pick up a doll and I'll think, oh, that just gives me vibes, and then I just know I have to add that to the collection.
It's like our conversation.
I love that you said that. We say that all the time. When we were putting Phantom History House together, that was exactly the sort of thing. Like, we would find a piece of art or an object or something. We go, oh, this makes me uncomfortable. We have to buy it. We do that all the time. So I love that you're sort of using that same approach. It's very interesting.
So shifting back to the day job and what you do there. Of course, almost everybody has been to a funeral home. Almost everybody has been to a funeral, but not everybody has been backstage, so to speak. How scary is that? I mean, for those of us who don't deal with that every day, it seems like it would be a very spooky kind of scenario. Obviously you would be very comfortable back there, right? And have you ever gotten creeped out?
Well, I don't really find it creepy. It's just, again, more of just fascinating to me, just the human body and the anatomy of just it's just like really intriguing, fascinating stuff to me. And
we're so
anytime I work on a body, I feel like I'm just bringing respect to that person, making them look like themselves again, making them look peaceful for the family. It just has a lot of meaning to me, and it's not like a scary, spooky thing. It's more like something I do out of reverence.
Right, it's a respectful thing.
Well, right. And I think that that's really significant. Like, this is really important work because these are difficult times for many families. And you're right. Like you just said, you want them to look as much like themselves. So how does that work? Do you get photographs to use as references for how they wore their makeup or how they looked?
Yeah. As much as we can, we will use photographs. Sometimes we can't always get those from the family, so we just kind of have to do our best. I also do a lot of restorative work. So if somebody has been in a bad accident or something, or like a trauma case, I will put them back together. And that can often involve like doing wax work, a lot of the artistic stuff that I'm used to doing as a hobby can also transfer over into restorative embalming, which is something else I find quite interesting.
I was just going to say that
Wow.
sounds like a very unique form of art that you
Yes.
do.
No doubt.
Yeah,
Well,
and
all the things she's talking about are art. I mean, even
absolutely.
creating a taxidermied animal is creating art and
Of
trying to make
course.
it look the right way or give it the right pose. Like all of that's artistic.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, I'm interested in the taxidermy side of this as well, because I know that, as you just said, when you're working on a human and you're preparing them for viewing or what have you, I think the word you said was reverence. There's a sense of reverence there.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of your taxidermy, and it's funny, it's humorous, it's an interesting take on what these little critters can do.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that balance between those two, if you don't mind, and that.
Yeah. Some people will say it's disrespectful to an animal to make it look silly, put a costume on it, but the way I see it, it's art, and it's making somebody enjoy that animal, and it makes them smile, and it makes them appreciate it. And sometimes, like if an animal were just rotting on the side of the road, it would never be noticed again. And that's just my view on it. Everyone's got different thoughts, but that's the way I tend to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. You were going to ask something. It looked like.
Oh no, we keep bouncing around topics, so
I know we're kind of all over.
We need to be a little more, but yeah, no. All right, so I was going to ask another embalming question, but I feel like we're going all over the place. So. Sorry, everybody.
Those are her two specialties.
By the way, if you're watching, type in any questions. If you are have any questions, we already had Melanie Sue has mentioned how she's glad she's not the only one, I guess, that loves this kind of stuff, and she said. It's awesome bringing peace to them.
Right. And I think that to Vic's point, the spirits were messing with our feed for a second. So hopefully we're back up and running again. So that might have been what she was referring to.
So I'm really fascinated when you mentioned about the wax work and like so if there are trauma cases and you're sort of putting things back together, that strikes me as being really challenging.
It is.
So like, can you give us, should I ask for an example or something, or like
Maybe not. Of course, I know you can't give specific examples.
Yeah, but I've had several different cases where there's been a lot of trauma to the face, a lot of broken facial bones, skin lacerations, that sort of thing. And it's a matter of like piecing together what you can and just rebuilding what you can out of wax. Because the wax, when it's done properly, it can blend really well with the skin. And then when you cosmetize it, then if done correctly, you can't really tell as much where there was any trauma.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I've had some people that were prepared to have closed caskets, and they were able to keep the casket open after I did the restorative work.
Wow, that's a real compliment.
Yeah, I was going to say that has to make you feel very proud of your work,
Yeah.
and that's like the ultimate compliment, I'm sure, from the family for you.
So, all right, so I have to back up here because I understand like the creative outlet, the artistry of trying to take a trauma victim and make them look as much like themselves as possible. That's where I would really that's where I would have a really hard time because I'm not good with blood and accident scenes and things like that. Right. So is there a part of that is more challenging to you when you get into those situations, or are you just like in your professional zone and you just go?
I just get in my zone with it, but it's definitely not for everybody. Like there are people who can't handle that sort of thing. I had classmates who just could not really get through it. So it definitely, you have to be someone who can handle that kind of thing in front of you.
So are there embalmers that don't do that part of the work? Like I'm assuming maybe you specialize in certain things, or that because you said they couldn't handle it, did that mean they couldn't become an embalmer, or did it simply mean they can work on those kinds of cases?
They can become embalmers, but yeah, not everyone does restorative work because there's definitely an art to it, and it takes not being too squeamish.
Or at squeamish at all.
It can definitely be a messy job.
That is amazing to me that you can do that, and I'm so glad you can, because it's like there's all these jobs in the world that I know I can't do. I'm always really glad that there's someone who can, which for me includes basically hammering a nail or fixing something, which you're really good at. So
I'm getting better.
But this is an important thing that needs to happen, and I'm so glad that you are out there with that talent. I couldn't do it.
No, I would have a challenge with it too. And I wanted to relay this question to you from somebody who's watching. Vic has asked, have you experienced anything you couldn't explain while you were working on The Recently Departed? Any strange occurrences that you would be comfortable sharing?
Well, I feel like everyone in the funeral home has probably experienced like what could be described as paranormal, just weird sounds, weird things in the corner of your vision. I've had a few instances myself where it just seems like I'm not quite alone. It's really hard to describe, but yeah, I can say that that's happened around there.
So you kind of feel like somebody's watching you do your work, kind of a thing? Is that what you mean?
Kind of, yeah. And like towards the end of the day, sometimes you'll hear things, and if you're working in the embalming room alone, like sometimes you just get this just weird feeling. Again, it's like hard to describe. It's not like really super obvious, but you can definitely feel something sometimes.
Yeah, just a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing, that room and that scene, and even that just makes me, a little.
Yeah.
Has anything ever happened with somebody who you?
Oh, you froze.
Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere.
Okay, hopefully we're back. Sorry, everybody, if our feed is going in and out. I don't know if the spirits here at Phantom History House are messing with things, or we've got a bad connection tonight. Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so everybody, we're talking to the Undead Undertaker, and if you have any questions for her work, either her taxidermy or collecting creepy things, or as an embalmer, now's your chance to type those in. So what were we?
So I was going to ask, when you have you ever had an experience while you were working on somebody where a nerve or something is hit and they move or they frighten you, or does that even happen? Is that a thing that can happen?
We hear those stories.
No?
Yeah, you hear those stories, but that is not really a thing. By the time they get to us, they are well deceased and beyond the point of any nerves causing any movement. The only time I saw something very minimal was like I embalmed somebody like within a couple hours after they had died, and I saw like a very small little twitch in their face, and that was it. Like they don't move, they don't jump around, they don't sit up, nothing like that.
Well, it kind of bums me out a little bit, but I guess that's a good thing.
That's not bum me. That does not bum me. I mean, they're dealing with enough.
Absolutely.
Without, dancing corpses or something.
No, they don't fight back.
So when you watch these TV crime shows, and I guess this is maybe at the police department, or whatever, like there's these coolers with the bodies in them and stuff. Like is that real? And is that have anything to do with what you do? Or is that like where they're storing them before they get to you?
No, we have a big cooler that you can walk in, and it fits a lot of bodies in there. They're all on shelves, and they all have their ID and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's definitely a thing.
Okay, so organized too. It's like an interesting filing cabinet.
Yeah, so we have a whole logbook, and they're all numbered. So.
Okay, that's good to know. Absolutely. Yep. Everybody, if you're watching, we're talking to the Undead Undertaker. By the way, I know we can find her on Instagram as Undead Undertaker. If you guys want to see some of these objects and taxidermies and things, is there other socials too?
Well, I believe so. Where can people find you out on the social networks?
Mostly Instagram. I did start a Facebook page because some events they ask for a Facebook presence too. But mostly I'm active on Instagram as Undead Undertaker with the underscore in between the words. And then on Facebook, Undead Undertaker.
Okay, very interesting.
And of course we've tagged you in a few things, and we'll continue to tag you because
Yes.
not only is what you are and what you do extremely interesting and fascinating, and you're just very cool to hang with, and we are so lucky that we got a chance to meet you. Emma is watching, and we had some weird tech issues, so she may have missed this. I was wondering if you could revisit briefly how you got into this, and maybe explaining the process a little bit about what you do as an embalmer without getting too graphic and too personal.
Yes. So I got into it. I had I'd gone back to college since my previous work in taxidermy wasn't really getting me anywhere, and I realized they had a mortuary program. So I went and did that. It's a 2-year degree, and then you have to do a year-long internship and take board exams and all that before you can get your license. And so now I'm a fully licensed mortician. So
And mortician and an embalmer. Mortician and embalmer, are those interchangeable, or are those different things?
Mortician is kind of a general term, but yeah, it covers everything. So funeral director.
Can you in a general way, not too specific, I guess, I don't want it to be, can you sort of explain the process of embalming to us?
Yeah. So basically what you do is you make an incision where the carotid artery is, and you inject the embalming fluid in through the carotid artery, and you drain through the jugular vein. You drain the blood out as the embalming fluid is going in. And I mean, that's a very basic description. But like, if for some reason you aren't getting good circulation in that body, you can inject other vessels and go from there. But basically, you inject the arterial system and drain through the veins.
How long does that process usually take?
Usually a couple of hours at most. I mean, sometimes you'll have, I shouldn't say at most, because sometimes you have bodies that'll take you all day if there's a lot going on with them. So yeah, a couple hours in general, and then sometimes you have some that are just challenging, a lot to put back together. It'll take you a long time. So it's really a case-by-case basis how long it takes to embalm.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense because every case is very different. Everyone has its own unique challenges and situations. A typical day for you involves doing this how many times?
Usually, lately we've had at least. So we have 3 tables in our embalming room, and usually there's a body on each table. We get those done, and we put on any others that need to be done. So in a day, we could embalm at least 6 bodies or more if needed. So we do.
What about I'm sorry, what was that?
I just said we do a lot, like at least 6 or more a day.
And how many of you are working at one time?
Well, if we have a full staff, there would be a person working at each table, and then somebody in the dressing room doing the dressing and cosmetics.
Well, that was my next question, is how long, I know it depends on probably the situation, but if this takes an hour or two typically to do that part, how much time does it take for the cosmetic part?
Again, that one, it's also sort of situational because sometimes you'll have somebody who is really discolored and needs a lot of cosmetics, and then others, they'll look pretty much normal and they won't need much at all. So you just kind of have to gauge it by how the body looks and go from there.
Okay. And this is and Kelly just asked a version of this, and I was kind of curious too. Embalming is a lot of chemicals, of course. from what I understand, it kind of keeps the body around for a very long time, even after it has been, placed in the ground. What are some of the other options that may be more environmentally friendly? And do you do those as well? Like, do you do cremations and things, or is that separate?
Yeah, we do cremations, we do green burials, we do, pretty much anything. So if you wanted to be buried without any embalming, we could do that. If you wanted to be cremated, we have a crematory. Our crematory is in St. Pete, but it belongs to us. So all the bodies that we have for cremation get sent down there.
Okay. And I know that when I first moved to Florida 24 years ago, I was a reporter. And one of the first assignments I had, which explains a lot about me, was we wrote a series called The Business of Dying, where I interviewed a bunch of morticians, funeral directors, people who ran pet cemeteries, the whole thing. It was fascinating. And there are so many options now for those who, depart this earth. You can be embalmed, you can be cremated, you can be planted under a tree, you can be shot into space, you can be turned into a fish reef. I mean, there's like all this stuff you can do. What is your take on some of those? And is there a odd request that kind of stands out for you that you can share?
I think they're all valid. Everyone has their own preferences and their own beliefs and things that have more meaning to them than others. So we take them all seriously, and we'll do whatever that person has arrangements for or whatever the family wants for them.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just going to be stuffed in at the front door like a coat rack. So just be ready for that. That's what's going to happen.
Yikes.
I have more questions unless you're
Go
good.
ahead. No, you're good.
So if you don't mind me asking, tell me a little bit about the name Undead Undertaker. Where did that come from? How did you come to embrace that moniker?
It was just something I just kind of came up with when I started my little oddities business, because I wanted to keep it separate from my personal life. Because where I work, you just kind of have to keep things private, obviously for the privacy of families, clients, things like that. But so Undead Undertaker was just kind of a character I used to draw and stuff. And so I just decided to just take it on as another kind of persona. And it just kind of kept going from there.
So it was like a character you would draw on paper, like you created like this.
Well,
Yeah.
like is that the character? Like if you go to your Instagram page, the picture, that's the drawing.
Yep. Or a better version of it. I had some pictures that were not as good, but
No, I think it's a really great graphic.
It's
really cool.
It absolutely is. And I like how it makes sense, with your oddities and your collections and stuff.
Yes. It just fits.
What was that?
It just fit, so I went with it.
Oh, yeah. It absolutely does fit.
Embrace it, own it. I like it.
Yeah. And when it comes to the oddity side of what you do, is there like a certain critter that you like to work with more than others? Like, is a squirrel better than a raccoon, or or does it matter for that?
I'll work on anything. And these animals that I work with, it's not anything that I kill, nothing like that. It's things that I find, things that people give me. Someone will be like, "Oh, I found this possum on the road. Do you want it?" And I'll be like, "Sure, I'll take it. I can do something with them." So I recycle a lot of animals.
I love that that's a conversation. I found this possum on the side of the road. Do you want it? Well, I absolutely do. I absolutely do. When it comes to animals that we're all closer to, like pets, dogs, cats, not necessarily an oddities thing, but of course people want to memorialize those animals in different ways.
And the pets, pets aren't really my thing, because I tend to avoid doing any taxidermy with pets because you can't make them look totally like themselves again. And if you get something wrong with the eyes or something wrong with the face, like the owner is going to notice, and it's more than I want to deal with people.
I think that is very wise.
Very smart.
I mean, really, that strikes me as being, I don't know,
Yeah, a little bit too far.
But finding a squirrel and bringing it to life and making it
Yeah.
fun and cool and having that somebody would love to have, that I think that makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
Oh yeah, totally different world.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
And I'm all for putting them in fun hats and stuff. Like
Yes.
I have no problem with that personally.
Who doesn't like a jaunty hat?
I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's like fun with. It's almost respectful, I think, to let them have a second life.
Yeah, talk about living forever. I mean, that's a great way for that creature to live forever.
Yeah.
So the Victorians were supposedly really into taxidermy. So is that a part of an era of history that you're sort of drawn to? We have a Victorian vibe here.
Oh yeah. I've been fascinated with that kind of stuff for a long time. Obviously with the outfit and the stuff that I collect and make and all that, I always kind of like to put a little Victorian vibe to things.
Yeah. Do you have any hair collections or toenail collections? Apparently that was Victorian. Remember we talked about doing that?
No.
Like we were early on when we were trying to figure out what to do here at Phantom History House. We had this idea of collecting hair.
I have seen some really pretty hair jewelry from the Victorian era. Because one way that they...
What does that look like?
Well, I don't have any examples here, but it's a way they used to memorialize people by collecting their hair and weaving it into pieces on jewelry or like framed art. And they would do all sorts of really intricate things made out of the hair of the deceased.
Quit looking at my beard like that. I know you have
I'm totally looking at your beard. I mean, I'm thinking, what can I do with that? No, I mean,
you leave my beard.
No, I'm not gonna. No.
So in your work in taxidermy, Undertaker, if I can ask you this, we're a little punchy tonight. Is there like a project that stands out most to you that either you created or that you saw that you are like, wow, this is the deal. This is like the ultimate example of cool taxidermy.
I've had a few that I've felt really proud of and stuff. Most recently was the chainsaw raccoon. He sold at the Oddities and Curiosities Expo a couple years ago, but I was really happy with him. And I kind of almost didn't want him to sell. He was just this angry looking little raccoon, kind of like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe to him. He had the apron and he was holding a little chainsaw. And he just looked cool. His picture's on my Instagram. But yeah, that was one of my favorite ones I've done.
We are going there next. You've seen it? I'm going there as soon as we sign off to see that. That's really hilarious. I love that. That's fantastic.
We'll talk about merging two very interesting genres, taxidermy and horror movie. And we were at the World Oddities Expo a couple of weeks ago. We walked around and saw all kinds of super creative designs with these animals, not only in your booth, but some of the other booths as well. There's so much talent out there that's being kind of channeled in this unique vein, which is very cool. And I have all kinds of respect for artists of all types, but this seems very, very specific and very challenging because I would not even know where to start. And I don't think I want to know.
So when we met you, you were one of two people that had a hearse.
Yes.
So do you still have this vehicle?
I still do have the hearse. Yes.
And you drive it around at all? Is it your main vehicle or just an auxiliary vehicle?
No, it's not my main vehicle. It's one that I bring to shows and conventions and things like that. It's I also drive it in parades. It was in the Mardi Gras parade last month.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was so amazing because again, going back to when we first kind of met you, you and of course a mutual friend of ours, you guys were here for our Halloween party.
Yes.
Our first year, we were kind of getting our feet underneath us, and we had two hearses parked outside of Phantom History House, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was great.
What a way to let the neighbors know that we were open for business. But
great photo ops.
So many great photo ops.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So that's a good question. I was wondering about that. Yeah. Before we let you go, Undertaker, is there anything about you or your profession that we didn't ask about that you think would be interesting to share with anybody watching now or watching later on record?
I mean, I think we covered everything pretty well. Unless anybody has any extra questions?
Well, let me ask you. Let me ask it a different way. I think there are a lot of misconceptions around the work you do, especially as an embalmer or as a taxidermist. So, is there something that you would want to tell somebody, like, this is why this is not so weird, or this is why this? I know we talked about why it was important. Is there anything around that you'd like to say?
Yeah, people tend to think of morticians as just like these dark, creepy people. And I mean, I'll play into that a little bit with my character, but in reality, we're just like anybody else. We just take care of the dead, and we just try to make them look good and do what's right for their families. So,
well, I think that's important to point out. There are real people who are helping these families in a very dramatic and important sad time.
Way, yeah.
So yeah, what you do and the funeral industry does is amazing and so important. But you're right. You look at pop culture, you look at TV shows, you look at animated movies. The mortician always has a certain look, for sure.
Yes.
And of course, as you said, you play into that with your character, but you are certainly not that way in real life. You're just
no. Like if you were to see me out of this costume, I would not really look the same. So,
absolutely. Well, I appreciate that you dressed up as your character tonight, and I love the Undead Undertaker stuff that you're doing. I think everybody go to her Instagram and Facebook if you want, and like see all the stuff, because it's an interesting scroll for sure. All the interesting things that you have done and created.
And can people, if you're not at an oddity shop or an oddity show, can people still purchase your items like online or contact you?
Yeah, I don't have an online store, but anyone can contact me through my Instagram, and I can either meet up with you locally and sell something, or I can mail it to you. So there's all kinds of ways to buy things from me.
Cool.
I wonder what the shipping cost would be on a chainsaw raccoon.
Probably not too cheap.
Probably requires some good packaging.
Absolutely, a whole other talent. Yeah.
Well, I so appreciate you talking to us, and I have to tell you, like, your work is so interesting and something that I think a lot of us don't know very much about. So I appreciate you talking with us, shedding some light on it, explaining about all of it. And I love that there's a real playful side to this, right? That you're like, I like this stuff. It's kind of cool and creepy, and I'm gonna have a playfulness to it. And I think that's great.
All while making a living and helping out others, which is really cool. And I hope you come by and visit us again at Phantom History House before too long.
Yeah,
it's been a little
I'd
while
love
since you've been here.
Yeah.
Good.
We would love to see you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us, Undead Undertaker. It was really fun.
It was a lot of fun. And yeah, hopefully we can do it again soon, because I know I'll have more questions, and we'll probably have more questions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for watching. And if you thought this was cool, let somebody know that it was here and point it out to them, because I think this is a really fun conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, remember, we always try to do this every week. There will be some weeks that we're not able to. But stay tuned to our Facebook and other social media channels, and we will let you know what we have coming up next.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Undertaker.
Thank you.